ground was shaking. The walls were cracking. Water was blasting through solid rock at 2,900 psi, enough pressure to tear through concrete like paper. 3 engineers were trapped. The temperature had hit 55 degrees Celsius. The machines were failing. And the project manager made a decision that shocked the entire world. He picked up the phone and said 4 words that no engineer ever wants to say. We have to stop. A tunnel that cost billions of dollars, 17 years of work, 10,000 workers, all of it on the verge of being buried forever inside a mountain. But here is the most terrifying part. This was not the first time, and it was not the last. Stay with me, because what happened inside this mountain is one of the most shocking engineering stories in human history. Welcome to World Unveiled, the channel where we uncover the stories the world forgot to tell you. Today we are talking about the Gotthard base tunnel, a tunnel so dangerous, so impossible, so terrifying that the world's best engineers looked at the plans and said, this cannot be done. 57 kilometers long, 2.5 kilometers deep inside a mountain, built under the weight of 3 Burj Khalifas stacked on top of each other. This is not just the story of a tunnel. This is the story of human beings going to war against a mountain and almost losing. To understand why this tunnel existed, you need to look at a map of Europe. Right in the center of Europe stands a massive wall of mountains called the Alps. For centuries, this wall has been one of the biggest problems in European trade and travel. Every year, thousands of trucks carrying billions of dollars worth of goods had to cross these mountains using long, dangerous zigzag roads. In winter, avalanches would close the roads for weeks. Trains had to slow down to a crawl just to climb the steep mountain slopes. The pollution from thousands of trucks was destroying the environment. And the roads? They were simply running out of capacity. The northern factories of Germany needed the southern seaports of Italy. The southern ports needed the northern factories. Europe's entire economy depended on this connection. Engineers sat down and looked at 2 options. Option 1, build bigger, wider roads over the mountains, more dangerous, more expensive, still slow. Option 2, do something that had been called impossible for over 100 years, drill straight through the heart of the mountain. Build a tunnel so long and so deep that no mountain, no snowstorm, no avalanche could ever stop it. They chose option 2, and that decision changed everything. On September 27th, 1992, the project was officially approved. 57 kilometers, 2.5 kilometers deep. Budget of $12.5 billion. Expected completion, 17 years. But nobody, not a single engineer on the planet, was fully prepared for what was waiting inside the mountain. The first enemy was pressure. When you dig 2,500 meters below the surface of a mountain, the weight above you is absolutely crushing. We are talking about millions and millions of tons of rock pressing down from every direction. Engineers tried drilling a small test tunnel first. The mountain pushed back. The walls began closing in. The rock itself was trying to seal the tunnel shut. The second enemy was heat. Deep inside the earth, rock releases heat. As the machines dug deeper and deeper, the temperature inside the tunnel climbed. 30 degrees, then 40, then 50, then 55 degrees Celsius. At that temperature, a human being cannot survive more than 15 to 20 minutes of physical work. Workers were coming out soaking wet from sweat within minutes of going underground. Machines were overheating and shutting down. Shift lengths had to be cut to just 2 hours. This was no longer a construction site. This had become an oven buried inside a mountain. But heat and pressure, those were just the opening act. The real nightmare arrived without warning. Deep inside the mountain, hidden inside cracks in the rock, there are massive reservoirs of water. Water that has been trapped under the weight of the mountain for thousands of years. Water that builds up pressure up to 2,900 psi. To put that into perspective, that is the same as placing the full weight of a car onto a single square inch of surface. When the drilling machines broke through into one of these water pockets, the explosion of water was instant and violent. Water blasted through the tunnel walls with the force of a cannon. Within minutes, the tunnel was flooding. Workers ran for their lives. Machines worth millions of dollars were swept away. It was in this moment, standing knee-deep in floodwater, surrounded by cracking walls and burning heat, that the project manager picked up the phone and said those 4 words. We have to stop. For 3 weeks, the most expensive construction project in European history sat completely still. Engineers from around the world were called in. Emergency meetings were held. Some engineers said it again. This tunnel cannot be finished. The mountain has won. But Switzerland was not ready to give up. What happened next is what separates good engineers from great ones. To solve the water problem, engineers came up with a solution that sounds like science fiction. They froze the mountain. Before drilling into a dangerous section, small pipes were pushed into the rock ahead of the machines. Freezing liquid was pumped through these pipes for weeks, slowly turning the hidden water inside the mountain into solid ice. Once the water was frozen, it behaved exactly like normal rock. The machines could drill through it safely, After drilling, concrete lining was immediately installed, and then the freezing system was turned off. For the heat problem, engineers built the world's first underground cooling system on a construction site. Cold water was pumped through pipes running the entire length of the tunnel. The temperature was brought down enough for workers to survive. Special ventilation systems were installed. Workers were given cooling vests. For the pressure problem, engineers designed a system of steel rings and precast concrete slabs that were installed immediately after drilling. This created an artificial skeleton inside the tunnel, strong enough to hold back the crushing weight of the mountain above. For every problem the mountain threw at them, the engineers found an answer. October 15th, 2010. After 17 years, after flooding, fires, heat, pressure, and the deaths of 9 workers who gave their lives inside that mountain, the two teams drilling from opposite ends were now separated by just one thin wall of rock. The entire world was watching. The question on every engineer's mind was simple. After 57 kilometers of drilling from 2 different directions, would the 2 tunnels actually meet? If the calculations were even slightly wrong, even by a few centimeters, the 2 tunnels would miss each other completely. Billions of dollars. 17 years. All of it wasted. The machine's giant cutter head pushed through the final wall. Light appeared on the other side. The 2 teams met. When engineers measured the alignment, the 2 tunnels were off by just half an inch across 57 kilometers. That kind of accuracy is like threading a needle from 50 kilometers away. The entire engineering world stood up and applauded. Now, let me leave you with some facts about this tunnel that will genuinely shock you. The mountain above the tunnel is so high that 3 Burj Khalifas stacked on top of each other would still not reach the summit. During construction, 30 million tons of rock and debris were removed from inside the mountain. That is enough material to build 5 Great Pyramids of Egypt. Switzerland used this debris to build artificial islands in Lake Lucerne. The tunnel boring machine, named Sissy, was 450 meters long, half a kilometer. A machine so large that it had to be assembled underground because it was too big to fit through any surface entrance. The tunnel is so long that engineers had to account for the curvature of the earth in their calculations. The single boring machine used as much electricity as 20,000 homes. And perhaps the most sobering fact of all, 9 workers never came home. 9 men who went underground and gave everything so that millions of people could travel through a mountain in comfort. A memorial stands at the tunnel entrance in their honor. The Gotthard Base Tunnel is not just the world's longest and deepest tunnel. It is proof of what happens when human beings refuse to accept the word impossible. A mountain that stood for millions of years. Roads that had defeated travelers for centuries. Engineers who were told it could never be done. And yet, today, high-speed trains pass through that mountain in just 20 minutes. A journey that once took hours through dangerous mountain roads is now a smooth, fast underground connection between the north and south of Europe. The mountain is still there. It is still pressing down. The water is still there. The heat is still there. But so is the tunnel. If this story gave you something to think about, smash that like button and subscribe to World Unveiled. Because every week, we bring you the stories that the world forgot to tell. I will see you in the next one.